Good evening, everyone. It is February 2018. No, it is not. It is 2025, but it is February 18th, 2025.
I
Welcome to
didn't know I was
Scouching
still
Live.
in high school. What
Yeah,
is this?
I don't want to talk about where I was in 2018, but regardless, welcome to Scouching Live. I am the host of the show, Will. You'll note the logo thing there is red for this glorious nation for make benefit of Canada.
That's not why
Um,
it's red. It's because Will's
it,
batteries didn't work in his remote. So I just said let's just run
it,
it. Let's run it red for Canada, and we'll
yeah.
disguise it.
Yeah, we'll just blow the doors right off of that conspiracy right off the bat. All right, sounds good. Well, we're off to a great start this
Mm-hmm.
evening. Of course, that voice you heard is my producer, AJ Jadero. How are you, sir? How is your weekend? How are things? How is your family day off?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of EU4, I hear.
Yes.
That's what's coming through
Yes.
a lot.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Venice
yeah.
to Roman Empire, baby. We're halfway there, and we're about 140 years into the campaign.
Oh my God.
There hasn't been a coalition that's fired on me yet, so
Not yet.
not yet, not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. I mean, my on my end, the addiction changed from Civ 7 to No Man's Sky. For anyone who's a fan of that or remembers that saga with that video game debacle from I believe 8 years ago now. But that has turned into quite the experience. If you've never tried it out, it's probably worth doing nowadays because my goodness, what a video game that's turned into. And their newest update sucked me right back in, and yeah, so still sleep schedule's not looking too good. But anyway, we can move past it. This isn't a gaming channel, at least not yet. We
Yeah,
haven't stooped
not
to that
yet,
level.
not yet, not
Not
yet.
yet. We're on our
It's
pathway there.
slowly becoming
We're
that.
slipping down the pipeline. We're getting there. Um, I will say though, to pivot to hockey, uh, Asian Winter Games are over. We've been following it,
I
and
think I think you used the term "we" a little
yes,
loosely.
extremely loosely. Yes, extremely loosely. But the Kazakh men's team pulling off a gold medal win over Japan, 5-0, and a lopsided win. And the Japanese women took the gold medal home. So Japan and Kazakhstan going after it. You know, getting the medals they deserved, and Kaz make benefit glorious nation Kazakhstan once again comes out on top. The boys in teal and
Very
yellow.
nice, very nice. Great
Yeah,
success, great success.
I mean, it is literally a great success. It's as great a success as you can achieve at that tournament. So, another thrilling conclusion to the Asian Winter Games. I hope they enjoy it while Thailand keeps loading up for what is hopeful to be a 2029 gold medal victory for our boys from Bangkok. Anyway, but we're not here to talk about that international tournament, right?
No.
There's a different one that people mostly seem to be caring about, which is the Four Nations Face-Off. I am obviously wearing the colors of my home country. Feeling patriotic these days. And the finals are on Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting there. And it's over pretty much as soon as it started in my world. I feel like it barely started. But all right, I'm curious of your thoughts. If you had to give this a grade of some kind. You can pick the scale, whatever you want, 1 out of 10, a
Yeah,
Scouching branded grade.
I like the 10, like out of 10
Uh,
system.
where are you putting this tournament so far? And where and like relative to what you expected going in? I'm curious of where your thoughts are.
Expectations were like 4, but in reality, this has been like 8, 9 out of 10 in terms of just being really, really fun. Been super competitive. I've just loved it in terms of like just it's actually so cool to see the best players playing together. Like watching Connor McDavid give so much effort.
Yeah.
He's just there's one thing that I actually think makes Connor McDavid's personality redeemable, okay? It's how god darn competitive this MFer is, okay? The look on his face screams, I will kill you because I want to win. And that is the thing about Connor McDavid that I appreciate more than anything else. I just wish he would say that instead of fans from Edmonton travel well. That's my only gripe with him. But
Yeah.
back to the actual topic on hand. it's so cool to see these guys compete the way they have. I know you hated the start of the Canada USA game. I loved it. I
No,
thought it was
I didn't hate it.
stupid.
I didn't hate it. It just, I mean,
Uh,
it is what it is.
I thought you
I
got
mean,
annoyed by it.
the third fight was a little, I kind of was thinking like in my mind, and again, I'm not an NHL hockey player, but I have played hockey on a team before. And it's like, I get that emotions are going crazy, like 10 out of 10, everybody's just going nuts.
But
But
Will,
like,
this is war, bitch. That's what this
right,
is.
right. But like, I would be way worse off emotionally stopping the game multiple times in the first 10 seconds just to watch my teammates fight. Like that wouldn't like I feel like that would almost knock me off my game where I'm just like I just want to play the game. Like what are we here to do, right? Like I get the fighting off the opening face off. Like it was probably the most charged international atmosphere I remember since Vancouver 2010. Like I don't know if I can recall a single international high stakes game where things were that tense and
Mm-hmm.
that insane. So I wouldn't say I didn't like it, but it was like okay, like let's get a move on here, right? Like the first few shifts of the game, like get the cobwebs out and like let's, and they were hammering each other for sure. But I mean, yeah, I guess I'm also just like not I'm not I'm not congruent with a lot of hockey fans with how much people like are attracted by fighting.
Right, but
Like
I
I
feel
don't
like in this case, there's
oh
it's warranted. It's not like this is not fighting for the sake of fighting. This is
no, I know.
we want to
And
compete and
hey,
this is country v country.
I was on my couch pounding my chest with everyone else for the first two. The third one was when I was like, okay, let's
Three
get a move.
fights in
Like, let's.
9 seconds. That's so
It's in that's
awesome.
I've never seen that before in my life ever. At least not that I can recall, outside of like line brawls. Um, Crazy though, crazy
And
atmosphere.
that's why those two teams are in the finals because
It,
they
it I mean,
wanted
yeah,
it more.
yeah. I mean,
Not
Sweden.
really.
I thought Sweden was a good team.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they played well in the games I watched. I've seen every game. I don't know if you have as well, but
Not all of them.
I watched every game and I thought Sweden, I mean, they beat the US, but obviously the US was not playing everybody and they were being a little bit, preparing for the final because they had already qualified for it, but in general though, I think Sweden showed really really well. Even Finland, right? Like it's so funny wearing this freaking jersey on your there's something about wearing a Canada jersey where it's like winning is really difficult. Doesn't mean you can't win, but it's like it's a nail biter a lot of the time, right? Like even that game against Finland for a little bit there, you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
going, "Uh-oh." Like, ugh.
This is
What's
what blew
happening?
my mind. Yes, UC Soros had a bad outing against the States, okay? But why not start him? What happened when he
Yeah,
got put
I don't
on
know
the
what that's
ice?
all about. Yeah, they didn't give up a
There's
goal.
hey, no, 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 no. There's a good pun here.
Oh, okay.
No goals.
No goals. Yeah, they put Saros
No
in.
goals when he was on the
No
ice.
goals.
The only
No,
goal that happened when he got put in was when he went to the bench for an extra attacker.
no goals.
So no goals.
So yeah, I mean, and like, yeah, I mean, Canada just lit Kevin Lankinen on fire.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, also the thing too is that Finnish defense group just wasn't it. Like
Nope.
everybody knew going into the tournament that that was their problem, and teams just took advantage of it. Teams just took them to town. And yeah, UC Saros is going to give up a bunch of goals because they're playing like I don't even know who played the most minutes defensively for that team. Because Miro Heiskanen even was
Probably would have been like
Rasmus
Essa
Ristolainen,
Lindell.
Essa Lindell, like, ugh, you know.
Hey,
Um,
now according to Jake Ottinger, he's the best defensive defenseman in the NHL. So
well, cool. My teammate is the best. Yeah, got
mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I don't know. It's been a crazy tournament. I've really really enjoyed it. I hope it's something that they keep. Like, the thing that always sticks in my mind is, what in the name of God is the NHL doing, not having these players play against each other on a big stage, and not doing it for over, what is it, over a decade now? It's like, it's inexcusable. Like, that US Canada game might be the best advertisement for hockey that we've seen, again, probably since what, Vancouver 2010,
Hmm.
like, internationally speaking. And they've been actively avoiding it or whatever. Like, they just can't seem to find a way to make it happen. So hopefully this is them going, okay, this is a big deal. Like, doing this kind of thing is a big deal. The guys clearly care. Obviously, the political atmosphere added like rocket fuel to the whole vibe,
Yes.
which, say what you will, but like, it was really intense. And I get the feeling that that's not going to be the last time things are like that, especially with the way people are talking about that particular part of the game. But regardless, it was great. But also, like, I want to give the credit to especially the Swedes too, because like, they were playing pretty well. I thought Eric Carlson played really well for them in this tournament. Uh,
Hey, now we don't do any Eric Carlson glaze on this channel. All right, not
well,
while I'm here.
you don't, but I am doing it for this instance for sure. Because he looked like he was really giving her, and this is probably the last time. Maybe he goes to the World Championships this year. I
Well, the
guess.
Olympics are next year.
I guess, yeah, and he signed, so he's gonna be around. So I guess, yeah, he'll be around. But he's certainly at times. I was like, I remember that Eric Carlson. I remember that guy.
Hmm.
Um,
When
and
he
then
has
there's Elias
guys who can
Pettersson.
insulate for him,
Yep,
then he's
he
excellent.
does. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, I just said Elias Pettersson. I don't know what's going on with him. Um, because lots of people are talking about how invisible he was playing like on their fourth line, I think, or third line,
Put
and
him with
just not.
William Nylander. It should have been.
Yeah,
That should have been the play.
dude,
Let your best guy work with Elias
William
Pettersson,
William freaking Nylander. Obviously,
the best Swede at the
we're
tournament.
Toronto boys. We're from the area. I mean, look at the stuff that's behind me. But I don't know. I don't care what team he plays for. That guy is one of the best in the world at just playing the game, and I do not care. He just is so good, and definitely, like, yeah, you just said it. Like, he definitely looks like one of, if not the best player on that Swedish roster,
He's the best player on
which
that team.
is saying something, because that was a pretty loaded, at least especially up front, a pretty loaded group.
Minus Mika Zibanejad.
Well, you know, whatever.
Not very good that first game.
One guy, that's one. You get one. But like, Jesper Bratt played well from what I
Hmm.
remember. It was good. They're a good team, but the US Canada one Thursday is gonna be stupid.
It is gonna
Uh
be stupid
it's gonna be so stupid in Boston. You know, there's talk
at
that
the
the president of
Garden.
the United States might be there, or at least they want him to be there. Uh it's gonna be wild. And I mean, we have a show Thursday afternoon, so you can get warmed up with that. But holy smokes, it's been great. I don't know. I came in. I think I came in a little bit more excited than you. I was maybe more of a 5.5. But and yes, I agree. I thought Adrian Kempe also looked extremely good.
He
And I mean,
rules.
it's a typical thing with Sweden, though. I feel like when they play internationally, is they sometimes play like they just don't gel well together, and it just kind of doesn't all come together. But I think in this tournament, it's more just like that Canada and the US are just stacked, like just absolutely stacked. And not any disrespect to the Swedes, but geez, yeah, those are two tough teams to skate with for 60 straight minutes
Yeah.
and keep moving things in the right direction.
Well, they also didn't have their best goaltending, unfortunately, throughout all of the tournament. So
Right. Yeah, they didn't either. They didn't have that. But anyway, it's a great time, really enjoying it. Um I'm curious to see how the rest of the comeback to the regular NHL season goes for a lot of these guys, because in that Canada US game, I'm surprised that some people didn't pass away on the ice. There was some huge hits there. Like they were really yeah, they were A being it. I saw something funny A being it between that and the NBA All-Star weekend, and how different they were, and like how much better the Four Nations face-off has been. Um and it's kind of hilarious. I mean, apparently at the NBA All-Star game, Kevin Hart had the microphone for like the entire game over the PA while they were playing and stuff, and he was like making jokes about the guys and stuff. It was just very strange. But it seems like the NHL has found a little bit of something here where it's like, okay, yeah, you have the Olympics and they want to bring the World Cup back. So like maybe instead of an all-star game kind of thing, it's a, the North America versus the world or something
Or they could just do
format.
it World Cup every 4 years,
Yeah,
Olympics every 4 years, and then have an All-Star game every other year type of thing to
maybe.
keep it fresh.
Yeah, maybe.
But we'll see.
But anyway, yeah, it's a good time. Good times, good game. Um
But
yeah, I don't know what else to say. Just a
no, it's
really
all
really
good.
good one.
We can start getting into chat questions. I
Yeah,
know
so
this is the
what
time of
sorry, I
year
interrupted you.
where there's not as many things to talk about.
It is pretty quiet outside of the Four Nations, honestly. Like even in the draft world, there hasn't really been anything that's dropped recently. Um Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here live on camera trying to think about what's happened, but there really hasn't been much outside of the Four Nations. But obviously, that's a very big deal.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I've obviously still been hard at work. If anybody, because we haven't done this in a while, if anybody's curious on the specifics that I've had a look at in the last week, if you want to ask questions about any of the following players, I've had a look at in the last week: Nick Sikora, Eddie Genborg, Tinus Koblar, Michael Sverchek, Roman Bausov. A little bit of chatter about Bausov this week with some people. Um, Peyton Kettles, Hayden Papanekis, Eric Nilsson, Jack Murtag, Colin Potter, Jake O'Brien, Jackson Smith, Blake Fiddler, Caleb Desnoyers, Harry Nancy, Bill Zonin, Jamiro Reber, Anton Frondel, and Theo Stuxelius today. On that note as well, a little bit more housekeeping. What was I going to say? Oh, right. We got 2 video room episodes coming this week. We did Jet Luchenko and a Philip Machar one, which was quite
Yes.
interesting. So we're gonna have those out by the end of the week. I edited those together earlier today, and they're off
And I will put the finishing
off to you
touches
for
on
the
them.
finishing touches. Yeah. So the Flyers fans, I think, are going to enjoy that one. I think because Luchenko's a real hoot, and Habs fans, I love Philip Machar, I really do, but we'll see what they think because it was an interesting game, a very interesting game that led to some self-reflection. So we'll see how that comes along when that drops on Friday.
Positive
So
or like what are you getting at?
I mean, I don't want to like blow the storyline, but it's it is very interesting to see him in the AHL. It wasn't positive or negative. Like the overarching theme from what I gathered was like he's doing a lot of things the right way. Like you can't really complain about how he plays,
Mm-hmm.
but but it is interesting because you watch him and you're like, yeah, the he's going to need to be a productive player to like keep a job probably, and he doesn't take up a whole lot of space on the ice. Like how valuable is a guy who will go into the corners and battle and dig for pucks, but lose more often than they win because they're small? You know, like you love the intensity level and the energy and the willingness to do those things. And they do have some good moments with the puck and everything, but shift in, shift out. It's like sometimes you're getting a very productive player that moves things the right direction. And some other times it's just they have to chase after a loose puck, and you just know that they're probably not going to come away with possession of it. They might keep at it and keep battling and maybe come up with it
Who does
later,
this
but
sound
you know what I
like?
mean?
I
don't know.
wonder who does this
I don't
sound
know.
like that plays on
I
the
don't know.
Toronto Maple Leafs and is small and everybody hates, except you and I and Rayanne. Who could that be?
You lost me. There's probably a
It
whole
kind of
bunch
it
of
kind
them.
of sounds similar, and I'm not saying this player is exactly like Philip Michar, but it sounds like you're telling me a lot of the deficiencies of Nick Robertson.
Uh, yeah, a little bit, but maybe not as like out of his mind.
Okay, like not as cracked
Not
in
as
terms
like
of like go
psychotic.
for
Yeah,
it,
yeah, and
just
he's not as
push the
fast.
pace. Yeah.
Bashar is fast. He's quick. Like he's a quick skater. But Nick Robertson is different. Like he's a little bit different. But I see what you're getting at though, for sure.
Just
All
what you
right.
said about going for a loose puck and knowing he's not going to come away with possession because of a battle.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like,
But in open ice, he'll follow that guy around like a rodent
yes, he
and
will.
strip him of the puck 2 seconds later, right? Like, so how do you value that? You
And
know,
then
and
whiff
I
on
feel
a
like
shot.
if you ask different people, you'll get different answers. But anyway, I mean, he was also playing with Jared Davidson and Florian Jacki,
Ooh.
which were not players I'd pair him with, but and he was setting up. I mean, I don't know. I'll let the video speak for itself, but it was very interesting to see what he can bring to the AHL because I also haven't seen him play since he was with Kitchener like 2 years ago. Anyway, yeah, so if you're unaware, this is a question and answer show as well. You can drop your questions in the chat. We're going to obviously get through all of them, and we'll be here as long as it takes. So if you have any questions regarding the draft or the Four Nations face-off or whatever, we'll tackle it if we can. Okay. Oh boy, and Brian Stewart starts off the show with someone who I've never
And the stream now. It's over.
yeah, end the stream now. And Brian Stewart showed up and immediately asked a question about a German playing in the second division. I haven't seen this player, Timo Kose, K-O-S-E, Kosha. I don't know. But he's big and scoring a lot of points in the German Junior League, which, as we all know, is not amazing. But I mean, I'll check him out because I mean, if I can, I don't even know if I can. I don't even think I have access to. I don't have access to German Junior League tape. I don't know if I have second division. I might have some of those games actually. Now that I think about it, so I'll see if I can find some Eisbären Regensburg games and see what the skinny is on this 200-pound, 6'3" German. What?
I think we missed one thing
What did we
with
miss?
the Four Nations face-off that I just quickly want to
Yes.
touch on. Who's winning the game?
Oh, oof. It's in the States. I think the US is going to pull it off. The team that we said probably looked the best on paper. I think the States are pulling it off. As
Okay.
much as it pains me. God, that's just going to be a really like the thing is for me is Canada had everything going for them. They had a packed house in
goaltending,
Montreal. I don't think you can lay that at goaltending though. You can't
Not
win
fully.
scoring one.
Not
You can't
fully.
win scoring one goal. You know, like with all of those guys on the team, all of those elite offensive players, you cannot not score. You can't score one goal.
They were also
You know,
down Shea Theodore pretty early on in the game too.
so
He's a great
like
player.
I know, but I don't know. Like I don't know. Canada is too loaded a team for you to sit back and go,
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
the States are
it
so
was
loaded
Gordon
too
Bennington's
that
fault. Right.
but it
But
makes
I don't know.
makes a difference, I think.
But like the States were coming into a hostile environment
Yeah.
and like Canada should have I don't know. I felt like it kind of was like Canada kind of disappeared a little bit in the middle of that game, and then when it was like push really came to shove towards the end, then you saw them kind of come alive because it was like they were doing that Toronto Maple Leafs slash Canadian World Junior Team thing where it's like let's get that extra pass, let's get that extra play to get that, you know, and then America would come back the other way and just Dylan Larkin would rifle one from the top of the faceoff circle and score, right? Like, you know,
Here's my answer.
Yes,
Connor McDavid's gonna will this. He's going to
I mean,
will
I hope
this.
you're right. I hope so.
He's the best player on the planet. And I think the States team is better, but wasn't it that Cale Makar wasn't in that game, right? That's another thing. Cale
No.
Makar wasn't in
Yeah.
that game.
He's playing Thursday though.
Yeah. So that's huge.
And he was great against Sweden, I thought. Like, he was
It's
Cale
Cale
Makar.
Makar,
He's gross.
right?
But
So
not controversial to say that.
3 of the best 4 players in the league are on the Canadian team. And then the other one is Austin Matthews on America.
Yes. Yeah.
But I just want to see what happens.
I don't
like
know.
if Quinn Hughes comes back for the States potentially, because I heard that, well, from you that might be possible.
It seems like he is. It seems like he's playing.
It's just going to be really interesting. But I feel like Cale Makar is the best defenseman in the NHL. Connor McDavid is the best player in the NHL, and I really feel like Connor McDavid.
I want you to be right. I want you to be right. I want Canada to win. I mean, I'm Canadian. I love this country. I want Canada to win that hockey game. It's going to be a tough one. That's going to be a hard game to win.
Colton Parayko and Jordan Binnington are probably playing, so it's going to be tough because they're not very good. Especially Colton Parayko. He's really
Colton
not good.
Parayko, yeah, he does not look amazing.
He's bad.
Yeah, that is a Doug Armstrong taking his guy pick, and that does not look like a good idea. But that's neither here nor there. We'll see how things go. The game will happen. Whoever wins will probably deserve it because these two teams are both great. Alrighty.
So we differ on that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not putting money on either team because no matter what I do, I will lose. Maybe I'll do the Tom Haverford thing. I actually just watched the Parks and Recreation episode where Leslie Knope is doing her campaign, and he's her communications manager, and he goes, when I go to the horse track, I never lose. You know why? I bet on all the horses. it's like, oh god,
you don't actually win either.
What do you mean?
Well, if you bet on all the horses, you're losing too, so you're not.
That's the joke. That's the joke. I win every time because I bet on all the horses. It's like, yeah, but you're losing. So it's like, if I bet on Canada and I bet on America, I win no matter what, But anyway,
hedge your bets, but not that stupidly.
Not like that. All right. Oh man, we got a Mustafa Lemieux drop. That's who Canada needs, is Mustafa Lemieux.
Yes. Too bad he's Lebanese and Australian.
Oh right, he's a Lebanese Australian. So I don't know. Maybe Australia will get a boost from him and Jacobi's Wozniak. Anyway, who's part Australian, I should fill that in. Thoughts on Callum Ritchie? I love him. He's sick. I actually have seen the Oshawa Generals quite a lot in the recently, I should say. And he's looked really good, just like a really good transitional guy who has tons of skill. He's not small. Like, he brings a lot to the table. He's a guy who in his draft year just got better and better as the more and more I saw him. And so I don't know, like, does he have huge high-end NHL upside? I think he's like a middle of your lineup offensive guy, but I think he'll be a player of some kind for Colorado. And Colorado does have some room on their roster now, I think, for some youth to come in and sort of pick up the mantle. This is a good one. We've got a good one here. What is Shakir Mukhamadullin?
A hockey player.
Were you around for the Shakir Mukhamadullin thing?
That's where I
prospect guy.
Not when I was a prospect guy, but when I first started getting into this type of content, because he was in the 2020 draft.
Right. Okay. So you came around later then, but you were paying attention.
Yes, I remember you losing your mind.
Yeah, I mean,
because the Devils traded up.
Yes, they did. And then they traded him for Timo Meier.
Yeah.
And now, Mukhamadullin has been playing in the NHL, so I guess that's why we're getting the question. I mean, all right. The thing about Shakir Mukhamadullin is I never really thought he was like that good. But he is very big and very lanky and a really impressive skater. Like, he has that going for him. I remember watching him though in 2020 and over and over again watching him and going, okay, I see what he's bringing to the table, or at least what he could. But the problem for me was largely based around his hockey sense and just reading the ice and moving the puck with control through his passing. Like if he wasn't carrying the puck, he was a much more limited player. And defensively, I felt like he was just, I mean, if it wasn't his reach doing the job, it was not, there wasn't much else to fall back on. So for me, like I never really saw him like as a first round pick at all. But I mean, looking back in 2020, how many guys would you have taken instead of him? I mean, for me, my pick probably would have been someone like Maverick Bork or JJ Paterka. I had pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few guys there that you might have taken a swing on.
Marat would have
Because
probably been
yeah,
your actual pick.
Marat would have been right there too. Because yeah, Mukamadulin, like I get it was a lesson for me though, where I'm like, I see the appeal now of a player like that, but there's no way I'm taking that guy in the first round. Even now, if you put him as he was and what I thought in my head at the time of what he was, I didn't even have him ranked, and I think that's too much of an overcorrection. But it's also really hard for me to look at a player and go, right, this and this and this and this and this aren't amazing, but he's tall and skates well. So like maybe we'll figure that out in the next 5 years. And here we are 5 years later, and he's like a solid to above average AHL defenseman who's playing for the worst team in the league off and on, right? And he's 23. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, he's still young,
Here's something I remember
but yeah,
from back then that you said. You did not think he would be a defenseman.
I talked about that with a couple of NHL people way back in the day about how there were people back then being like, you may as well just not let him defend. And I mean, I feel like it's a little too late to try that now,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, yeah, there like watching I remember watching him then and I'm just like, yeah, if he carries the puck and pushes the puck up the ice and is doing some stuff offensively, then yeah, there's something there, but boy, yeah, for a defenseman, I did not see a top 20 guy at all there. And
You saw a top 20 guy and his teammate, who now is, well,
well, yeah, rest in peace.
rest in peace, Rodion.
Yeah, oof. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's a guy. He's still cooking, We'll see what happens. Uh is Michael Misa versus Gavin McKenna a legit discussion again for best '07 forward in Canada? Okay, this is my fourth reminder now, or fifth, that we need to have Joel Henderson on the show. Because honestly, like,
Sounds like ADHD. You need 7 reminders to do the
yes,
thing.
exactly. And like we need to have all the puck preps guys on the show at some point because they're all smart and they're all
Except
great.
Jordan.
Except Jordan. Yeah, Jordan can't come. No, Jordan. Actually, Jordan, I've been talking to him a little bit and he says that he's flirting with the idea of breaking up his OHL draft work with what he does is a one game sample of 20 of NHL draft prospects and just sort of looks at them and goes, this guy stinks because I watched one game and blah, and then I watched one game of this guy. And it's always really interesting to see his opinions on an NHL because he has no NHL draft like need to really pay attention to that. He's more in the GTHL, AAA, OHL draft world. So he's much too busy with that to be paying attention to the NHL draft. So we'll have him on the show at some point. We'll talk some OHL guys and maybe his 2025 draft one game samples because those are always entertaining. And he's a funny guy. He and I are long lost twins, if anyone doesn't know. But anyway, I think the McKenna Misa discussion is totally legitimate. Um, I think McKenna certainly is a flashier player, but yeah, Michael Misa is a really hard one to ignore. I mean, I've said a few times, like with Gavin McKenna, I'm not totally sold on the idea that he's this like far and away number one overall pick. I think he's incredibly skilled. I think he's incredibly crafty and creative and really, really, really bright potential in his game. But I look at Michael Misa and I look at him and I can very easily go, I think there's a great NHL player here just it's that thing where you watch him go over like when I remember Marco Rossi for an example, and I remember watching Marco Rossi, and I'm going every single time he steps over the ice or over the boards, I know what I'm going to get from him. I know it. I know he's going to bust his butt. He's going to work his tail off. He's going to do everything he's asked of to be a successful player, and he works his tail off the ice too. And he's a great kid. Blah blah blah, but like you could still see him and you're like, right, but he is kind of small and he's not the fastest guy in the world. And there are some things like he wasn't a number one overall candidate for me. Whereas when you look at Michael Misa, it's the same thing. You go, he's going to go over the boards and I know what I'm going to get out of him. And it's like there isn't a situation outside of if you want him to be a bruiser. Like if you want him to punish guys and be physical and intense, you're going to get a guy who does everything like in a good way and doesn't really like he's not a sniper, he's not a pure playmaker, but he makes the right plays, and when he shoots the puck he makes them count. Like he's just so good at the game, and it's not that you can point holes in his game and go, yeah, but he's also kind of small and blah blah blah. But regardless, I love him. I feel like it's a perfectly legitimate discussion to have between him and McKenna.
Who
Yeah,
you
I mean, I
taking?
love
Who
McKenna.
you taking?
If I had to pick between the two,
Yep.
probably Misa. He's a center. He elevates the guys he plays with. Look at Igor Chernyshov, right? We just did a game tape or a video room
Mm-hmm.
episode on Chernyshov, and like, I mean, we saw it. You have Michael Misa without Igor Chernyshov, and he's phenomenal. You have Igor Chernyshov. I think you take him away from Michael Misa, he's not scoring 3 points a game. That's not happening. So, and you can see why, and I think it's pretty easy to see why. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that Misa's the type of guy who elevates the guys around him at all ends of the ice. I think McKenna does too in a different way, but for a guy like Misa up the middle of the ice that can play a ton of minutes and you know what you're getting out of him, really efficient skating stride, you know, really great forechecker, um, clever offensive player. Like he just does so many things really, really well, that it's hard to ignore. And McKenna does have that, like he's small, he's really slender, he kind of gets pushed out of lanes a little easily. It's just he's really good at maintaining control of the puck. He's got skill level to stick with the play and fight through pressure at this level and do all of those things. But I'll be curious of how he looks next year, to say the least, for sure. Um, so, yeah, Civ 7, No Man's Sky might as well go for the rough launch trifecta and get back into Cyberpunk 2077. That is true. I did kind of go through a Cyber 20, 2020. Oh my God, a Cyberpunk phase in the off season this year for like a week or so. I kind of got back into it and kind of was like, yeah, you know what, this has turned out to be quite an interesting experience. But it's just I don't know. I'm not much of a like that kind of an RPG kind of guy, like Grand Theft Auto. I love Grand Theft Auto, but it's not like I'm obsessed with those types of things. Whereas like games like Civ 7 and No Man's Sky, like you can kind of sit back and chill out and, you know, not have to worry about what everything that's going on in Cyberpunk. And also like just, you know, games where you have to be good at shooting things. I'm not good at those. That's a weakness of mine. Like Sam McGilligan will tell you how awful I am at Counter Strike. I actively refuse to play that garbage crap. Um,
That garbage crap.
Garbage crap. It was
I have a.
garbage day today in Ontario for me. It was garbage day for me,
It's not
and
garbage day in Ontario. My garbage day is
and
Friday.
right, mine was today. So whatever. And you know, garbage day was today, and Counter Strike can go out with it. Um, okay, what do we got?
I cannot shoot good, so I don't like it.
Yeah. Brady Kachuk being captain of Ottawa, the capital of Canada, and acting like that is all I'm going to say. Strange times. That's very true. Brady Kachuk, I mean, I don't know how you don't like that guy. I mean, like you started the show being like, well, I was kind of a little disappointed with all the fighting and stuff off the top, but I mean, I can't hate Brady Kachuk at all. I mean, as a player, you kind of hate him, but in a good way. Like you're just like, this
Hmm.
guy is such a jerk, and he's good, and I
He's
could
a
see why he wears a
pesky
letter. Yeah, he's a
MFer.
pesky but good player. And yeah, doing what he does, being the captain of the capital of Canada is kind of weird. It's kind of weird. And doing it in Montreal, but wearing an American jersey, pretty wild, but good times. Um, what do you think of Jackson Lacombe? I don't know. We've gotten a lot of questions about Jackson Lacombe this year. I've been watching a lot of Ducks games, and sometimes he shows offensive potential, or elite offensive defensive potential. Yeah, we actually watched Jackson Lacombe like a month or so ago, maybe a
Hmm.
month and a half. Um, I mean, I like him. Like, I think you're right. I don't know if I would say like flashes of elite offensive defenseman potential, but like really good offensive puck moving ability, like smart timing with his passes, sees pucks through traffic really well, moves the puck up the ice really well. I think his defensive game is fine. Like he times things well. He's not the most physical guy because he doesn't really need to be. Like he gets his stick in lanes and stick checks well and gets pucks turned around really quickly. So like he's a guy where I'm like, yeah, he could eat minutes on an NHL team for sure. Like if I'm a coach, I'm going, yep, this guy can play. You know, like there's some offensive pop to him. You know, if you don't mind your defenseman being a little bit more of that finesse offensive leaning type players, then he could be a good one for you, because I don't find him to be a liability defensively, I guess. Not at least not really. Should I track how many 5 or more goal games against the Guelph Storm for the rest of the season? Yes. I know they've been playing with 2 forwards on defense for a while, but they are fun losing 8-6 every game. Yeah, the Guelph Storm are a real adventure. If you're not familiar, I mean, the game I did of was it Chernyshov? I
Hmm.
think it ended 10-7 for Saginaw, and it started 5-0 for Saginaw in the
Hmm.
first period. So there's that. Uh, but the Guelph Storm are fun, man. They're a fun team. They go, and yeah, I didn't even know they had 2 forwards playing defense right now, but that's pretty wild. But they have some players that I like, Beauchene. Oh man, Skvortsov. What else do we have here? Lev Katzen obviously is a lot of fun. I love Jet Lutchenko. We all know that. They got a good team. They got a fun team, I should say. A really, really fun team with some. I mean, I'm interested in Ryland Singh for next year in the draft. Who else is on
Is he
here?
better than Gavin McKenna, Will?
Yes, he is. Ryland Singh is better than Gavin McKenna.
Oh,
I
okay.
think Ryland Singh has like 2 points this year or something. No, 21. 21 and 49. So watch out,
So
Gavin
so
McKenna.
basically 2 points.
Here comes Ryland Singh. Although, yeah, Ryland Singh, noted Jordan Millette guy. So maybe we'll talk some Ryland Singh when Jordan comes on the show.
Now I don't like
Uh
him because Jordan likes him.
oh, okay. Never mind then. We'll talk Pierce Mbuyi. That's our boy. Me and Jordan. We
Mabui?
love
Like my
Pierce
boy?
Mbuyi. Yeah, Mbuyi. MBUYI.
Ah.
Pierce Mbuyi. He's really good. Anyway. Harry Nancy, the 2-0 sound guys. Harry Nancy, Pierce Mbuyi. Those guys are Jordan and I's boys on that team. Anyway, probably not as strange as the host from the oh, this is the NBA thing. Probably not as strange as the host from the NHL awards who had that awful Russian impersonation in front of Kucherov. That was painful. That was really painful. But the NHL awards are kind of cringe. They've always been kind of cringe, I
That's
feel
why I
like.
don't watch them, and I
Yeah, I
don't
don't
know
think
what you're talking about.
does anybody watch them? Like
I just
I
wait to
don't
see who they award the award to. I don't watch this whole like ceremony. Why would I want to
yeah.
watch essentially the Oscars but for the NHL? When I know who the best players are and they're going to get them wrong anyways. So I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah. Okay, so this next one, it's not necessarily a question, but I do want to say something about this. So someone says, congratulations to Bill Guerin for finding a way to ruin the fun. And I think that is in reference to a Daily Beast tweet that kind of went a little bit viral, where it insinuated that that Bill Guerin said that talk of Canada becoming the 51st state of the US is what motivated the players on the American team more, and made them, it like antagonized Canada for them. Like that's what it insinuated. And honestly, that is fake news.
Yeah.
Like Bill Guerin did not say that at all. Like that's not what he said. It's just he said that the overall environment motivated the players. Like, not specifically anything, but I mean, he basically was saying like the animosity that is there, they had nothing to do with it. They didn't do any of this, but the animosity that is there is a motivator. And the only thing he said that I think anybody remotely could have a problem with is inviting the president to the game. But that is like, what are you gonna like? You it's a huge deal. Imagine if he did go. It would be a huge deal. And like it would make the game even more important and more meaningful and more
Yeah.
whatever.
Well,
So like what's he supposed to
mayors
say?
of cities
Right?
make bets with each other when their
Yeah.
hockey teams play or when their whatever football team, basketball
Yeah.
teams play. Like there's stuff like that all the
Like
time.
yeah, like I am as anti 51st state as it gets, but that I saw that I think it was Brian Stewart who actually mentioned that it was fake news because he read the actual article that it was linking to, and he's like, I caught myself because he didn't say what it says in that. He did not. That's not what he was saying, and like that's greasy. So be careful what you're reading, no matter what your ideology or your belief system, because context is important and you lose context very quickly from a 200 character X post. Just don't go on X. Just don't go on that stupid website. Just stop.
Except to
uh
view stuff Will puts out there, okay? That's the only acceptable.
I think the only thing I put out there now is links to this.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So yeah, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. But the better way to do it is subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell, and then you'll get notified every time we go live.
Yeah.
So that's a better solution than going on the website formerly known as Twitter. Could you see Chernyshov being with Celebrini on left wing at some point? Yes, I could. Um, what's your guys' opinion on the defenseman Elias Pettersson? The sample size is obviously small in the NHL, but he hasn't looked out of place for a rookie. So I actually watched a game of him not too long ago with Vancouver. I agree. Like, I don't think he looks too out of place there. The skating ability and just sort of the safety in his game is definitely there. So, you know, would I put him out there for 20 minutes right now? Probably not. But yeah, he looks solid. You know, he's been way better than I thought he would be when I remember watching him when he was a draft eligible. There was nothing really to me that stood out about him, but
Other than
he's
his
been,
name.
other than his name, true. And the fact that Vancouver drafted him is extra hilarious. But yeah, I mean, he's come along. Again, it's like, I think the big thing that I have kind of learned over the last just 2 years or so is that these big but mobile defensemen who, you know, play a safe, like we just talked about Shakir Mukhamadullin, and I'm not saying that's who he is, but if anything, you know, it's like if Shakir Mukhamadullin didn't have an offensive bone in his body, but skated really well, you know, gapped up really well to opponents and just played a really safe and dependable game, got the puck along the defensive blue line with control and out of the zone with control often, then I see the value in a player like that a lot more now than I did before. And I think with Pettersson, that's what I remember seeing him as, because I just kind of went and saw him and I went, I mean, I feel like this is the type of player that you can just get, you know, like these are the guys that rise to the top in the NHL at 25, 26, and maybe you can find one or something and not have to draft and develop one. But I mean, I get the appeal of saying, right, but why don't we just draft one who we like and we think we could move forward with them that way. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's he's an interesting case study for me personally. I don't know if he's like an incredible NHL player, but just a solid guy that, I mean, you got him outside the first round, so you got a player, and that's a win of a pick if that's what he turns out to be.
Yep. And I haven't seen a whole lot of them, so I can't really add on to it. Because I know the question was, what do you guys think? So.
Right. Dahlin is elite at both ends of the ice. Oh, yeah, that's another one who's been amazing. Rasmus Dahlin has been great. It was funny. I do this all the time, but I go on individual team subreddits and just love reading what the fans are talking about and when they have to deal with the frustrating stuff sometimes. And I saw someone post something that someone had written, an article or something that said that the Sabres might want to consider trading Rasmus Dahlin for I can't remember who it was, but it was someone who
Whatever.
just is not
It
not at
already
all.
sounds dumb. You don't
It's
trade
yeah, you
Rasmus
don't trade
Dahlin.
Rasmus Dahlin. Yeah, you do not trade Rasmus Dahlin. But it was really, really funny. And I'm going to try to find it on the fly here, but I don't think I will. But anyway, it was a good times. But I do. Oh, here it is. Dahlin for Brady Kachuk, 1-for-1, straight up. Would you do it?
No.
No,
No.
no. So
Not.
all the
Not.
and seeing all the Sabres fans being like, "What? No,
Not if
no."
you
This is
threaten
really funny.
to end me, and
Yeah,
my life. I'd die before
yeah,
trading Rasmus Dahlin for Brady Kachuk.
correct. That's the right answer. Have you seen Henry Bruchevitz on the Knights since they put him back with Sam Dickinson? I know they were hit and miss at the start of the season. Who do you think he works best with on London? I mean, Bruchevitz is kind of like his brother. For me, I like him more than his brother. I will say that as well. But for me, he is the type of player who needs an insulator because his defensive game is the big issue for me. Like, just the offensive zone is impressive stuff once in a while. The skill level, there's a lot that he does that I think works well in the offensive zone. Like, I probably would look at a guy like Jared Woolley maybe as a guy that I would try with Bruce Devitz because Woolley is bigger and heavier and can sit back a little bit more and be a more supplementary option down the lineup. Um, but Dickinson and Bruce Devitz, like, I still see the point there because I think you can kind of get away with that in the OHL. Like, Dickinson's not a bad defensive player, I would say, at least for that level. So I think you can get away with two more offensive guys like that. And I mean, London's kind of like it doesn't really matter. Like, they can just load up a line and go, yeah, I mean, so what? You might beat us on a defensive entry, but on that shift, we got 3 great scoring chances because all of these guys can score. Like, so it all comes out in the wash at the end of the day. But I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen him recently, but I did track him not too long ago. And he's very quickly become one of those guys where I'm like, I kind of know what I'm getting going in. I see the appeal, but the defensive stuff is a problem. And I have less and less time as the years go by for defensemen who have trouble defending. Like, that to me is a bit of an issue that I have a hard time squaring. But yeah, anyway. I'm excited to see McCarr versus Quinn Hughes. Yes. Easy. That's not even a question, but yes, I would say yes to that. Who do you think deserves to win the Hobey Baker, and do you think it'll translate to the NHL? That's a very good question. There are some good players in the NCAA this year. I mean, selfishly, I would love to see Isaac Howard win. I think Isaac Howard's been excellent for Michigan State, and people kind of wrote him off, but I would love for him to win. I feel like Ryan Leonard probably takes it. I think just there's so much momentum with him. I mean, but having seen him and seeing Zeev Bouillon, like, Zeev Bouillon has been outstanding. Unless you care about how many points he's scored, then maybe you don't get behind him. But I really loved Zeev Bouillon the couple of times I've seen him this year. Our boy Ayrton Martino is 12th in
Yo,
scoring in the NCAA. Look at that,
hell
another
yeah.
good season. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like Ryan Leonard, probably it's going to be hard to take it from him. But selfishly, I would like Isaac Howard because whenever I watch him, I'm going, yep, this guy rocks. He's a ton of fun. Switching to Michigan State seemed to reignite his career. So yeah, hopefully, I don't know. There's a lot of good options though. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
If you stack a lasagna on top of another lasagna, how many lasagnas do you have?
Just one.
Yeah, it's still one.
It's just a
Right?
mega lasagna.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, if you take a bunk bed and put another bunk bed on top of a bunk bed, is it a bunk bed? Yeah. It's a
Well,
bed with it's a bed with bunks.
but
It just has
the thing is, like, with lasagnas, there's like layer meat, layer meat, layer meat,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
With bunk beds, you can say a tri-bunk bed if it's 3 because you can count the individual beds. Lasagna, it's already multiple. So I don't feel like there's a way to really quantify it other than a bigger lasagna.
I'll say this. I just Googled it. I Googled, is a lasagna a standard amount of layers? Because I genuinely don't know. I've never made a homemade lasagna. I saw my dad do it once, and I've never seen him get so frustrated while cooking before. So I just went, I'm never doing that. Because he also made his own pasta to do it, which I don't know why that it was really good, but my God, I swear he was pulling his hair out. But anyway, I Googled it. And it says that a lasagna does not have a standard number of layers. So it says anywhere from 3 to 8, depending on the recipe. So if you take like 2 3 layer lasagnas and stick them on top of one another, it's a 6 layer lasagna. So I mean, I don't know what else it would be. I just think it's a big lasagna, a
Yeah,
mega lasagna.
that's
And you're
kind of
the
the way it goes.
Italian, so if you agree, then
That
then
if
we're good.
I trust me, I would know about this stuff because Italians, they are food
Yes,
Nazis, okay?
food crazy. Yeah, il
Crazy people.
fasciste. Yeah,
Yeah,
about food.
fascismo.
Fascismo, yeah,
They
exactly.
are they are bad. I I put I put ricotta cheese on a pane pomodoro when I was in Italy. So that's like a piece of bread with like olive oil and a bit of tomato on it, and I put ricotta cheese on it. My
Did you get
my
jail time?
my nonna's my nonna's first cousin looked at me and like scoffed. She's like, "You can't do that." I'm like, "Yes, I can," and I just did.
Yep.
And because when I leave the country of Canada, I like it more because that's the way it goes. I'm Italian in Canada, but I'm Canadian everywhere else. That's the way. That's
Right.
how it works.
Yep.
So I'm acting like, look, lady, speak to me in a real language, and then we can talk about how to deal with what real food is, okay? Because this is real food, and this is fine.
Well, I also have a horse in this race too because I, according to 23andMe, am 0.1% Sardinian. So,
Yeah, you barely count. Sardinian.
so it's actually funny now that you mention it. I did go out to an Italian restaurant with my parents in Toronto not too long ago,
Mm-hmm.
and this topic came up, our heritage, and the fact that I did a 23andMe, and I showed my dad, who's a genealogy guy. My dad is super super into genealogy, and it was kind of crazy because I think he has history of my family, at least direct lineage in some lineages all the way back to the time of Henry VIII. Like one of my distant ancestors was part of Henry VIII's court and actually
Right.
saved his
Yes, I
life.
remember this story.
And so my dad has all this lineage in my history, and he's like, he found it really hard to believe that a lot of these 23andMe results were what they were, which honestly I think he's right in that fact. Like he has very very strong evidence that my family largely is from Northern Ireland and like the middle areas
You're
of Ireland, but my
probably like the other thing is with this, you're probably gonna get an update that's gonna pull that out
probably.
as it processes it more. I would trust your
But
dad's genealogy
well,
more
I mean,
so
he
than
has the documentation of it, right? Like the documentation is more important than my genes, right? But anyway,
yeah.
the funny thing though was when I told him that I was 0.1% Sardinian, and my dad was going, "Well, that doesn't make any sense." And then he thought about it, and he's like, "But there was an Italian guy that was affiliated with the family, but wasn't part of the family." And he's like, I wonder if there was an illegitimate child somewhere along the way that got into the gene pool. And now there's like a teeny weeny little bit of Italian floating around. And that's maybe what sort of trickled down. He's like, there might, in like 300 years ago, he's like, there might have been like one Italian guy that snuck his way into some family or something and then ducked out or something, and maybe there was a child there that wasn't the father that raised it. And obviously those people have been dead for hundreds of years, so whatever, but it might explain why there's a little bit of Italian in me, because every other ounce of my lineage genetically is English, Irish, and a little bit of from like Luxembourg, like central Germany. So take that for what you will. Anyway, hope that answers the question about lasagna. The advantage hockey has over baseball, football, and basketball is how many competitive teams there are country by country. I agree. I mean, baseball, I like watching international baseball too. That Shohei Otani, Mike Trout, face off. What year was that? Was that
That
20 in
was
the 2020s?
2022 because
Right. Because
I had to make a little thing for when I was in school. I had to make I did like a sound up pack for it.
right.
So that would have been my last year at my college. So that would have been 2022.
2023
Oh,
World Baseball
2023. No,
Classic.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So not that long ago. It feels like way longer ago, but that's one of my
And
favorite
it would have been
sports moments.
or it would have been early 2023, right?
That's one of my and that's one of my favorite. Yeah, it was March 2023.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Makes more sense.
So that was one. That's one of my favorite sporting moments of the decade so far. Like that at bat and that game as a whole. Oof, that was great. But I mean, I agree though. International hockey, it's great. Like it's one of the few sports that kind of cross pollinates that isn't soccer, from Europe to Asia to
Mhm.
Canada, and countries are getting more into it, right? Like it's a game that sells itself, it's in a lot of different ways. I can't tell you how many times I saw on Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff, people just going, this is what hockey is, watching 3 fights in 9 seconds, which it's not always what hockey is. But if that's what draws them in, and then they watch that game and that's that the pinnacle of hockey looks like, then I don't know how you don't become at least a little bit of a hockey fan.
Then
It's
then they blame losses on not being tough enough.
yes. Then they blame losses on not
Do you
having.
really want more of those, Will?
The literally next comment is Tom Wilson would have been funny to see with Canada. Um, so I
No,
don't. Yeah,
he would have been
yeah.
bad. Well, no, he wouldn't have been bad, but he wouldn't have been
bad.
great.
No, it wouldn't have. I don't think it would have changed anything.
Yeah,
Like they're
actually,
not
that's
going to
true.
score
You know
more.
what? Tom Wilson's actually a pretty good player. It's just
He's
like
not bad. Yeah,
it's the same thing with Sam Bennett. He's good, but
yeah.
would I take Seth Jarvis over Sam Bennett and Tom Wilson? Yes. Yes, I would.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm just looking here. Yeah, like, yeah. Anyway,
I feel
whatever.
like for the most part, the forwards have been pretty good for Canada.
Yeah.
It's just been like, why is Colton Parayko there? I love Thomas Harley. I love Travis Sanheim.
Yeah,
Those are good replacements.
they're good teams. They're good teams. Like, I feel like Brad Marchand hasn't really done a whole lot. Seth Jarvis has been kind of here and there, but not.
But he only
really
played
doing
like
much.
what, one
He
game?
didn't play much. Yeah, he's not playing. Yeah, he's not playing much. I don't know. I don't have that many complaints about the Canadian roster. Like, I can't look at them and be like, they screwed this up, right? Like, sometimes you lose a hockey game, right? Like, I don't know. I didn't really look at that game and go like, oh my god, panic mode, right? But like there's a very good chance Canada wins Thursday. I don't think it's a surefire thing, right? Canada had their chances to put that game away against the States too, right?
Also, I know there was some discourse about Hagel and Sorelli being there. I think originally, I love those guys. I love those guys.
Great.
Those are typical, like those are prototype AJ players.
I will admit I did not understand Brandon Hagel when he got traded for all of that stuff, and people were like, "You should probably go watch more Brandon Hagel because check him out." And I went, "Okay, now I get it.
He
now
rocks.
I get it. Yeah, now I get it. Yeah,
But then
he's a
it's
dog.
like, oh, you should watch Tanner Janot more because he got traded for maybe not way more, but like a lot more volume.
Yeah, more volume. Yes.
And now he's on the LA Kings, not doing much.
Who's the home team? That's a good question. But I mean, it doesn't really matter, I guess, because it's
well, it does.
Oh yeah, last change, right?
Well, you get to pick who you match up against.
Exactly, you get last change by being at home. So that's a good question. Then I don't know actually. Does it say on Elite Prospects? No, it does not have upcoming games. I don't know. Let's see. Flash score, because that's always good.
I would imagine it's the States because they should have earned it.
Yeah, that's true. And Canada had home.
Well, beyond that, they would have earned it. That's more the thing that I think is like they have the most points. So
I
they
think
should.
it's the U.S. I think it's the U.S. at home, if I'm reading it correctly. But I could be wrong. I'm just going to triple check. Oh, even on the NHL website, it doesn't say team at team. It says just Canada, USA, Four Nations face-off. So on the NHL website, it doesn't even say on the
It's
schedule. So
probably the States, though.
it's probably the States, I would think. Yeah. Craig Button compared Michael Misa to Clayton Keller. I don't see it at all. What current or past player would you comp
What?
Misa to? I don't see that at all.
What?
Not even
What?
close. Michael Misa is more
They're
of
the
a
opposite of good. Like, they're good, but they're both good in different ways.
yes. They're very different. I keep saying Sidney Crosby, but I'm not saying he's the next Sidney Crosby. I'm not saying he's like one of the greatest of all
No,
time.
Will thinks he's better
But
than Sidney
yeah,
Crosby.
he's better than Sidney. No, but like the style of play,
Yeah.
the style of play where you just like you watch Sidney Crosby, like obviously if you're a Penguins fan, you would have a very, very good understanding of like everything Sidney Crosby does. But like I feel like if you're just a layperson and you sit back and you're watching Sidney Crosby play, like it's not that he's like faster than everyone all the time or more physical or a better shooter or more skilled or a better playmaker or anything. It's just he's like 9.7 out of 10 like across the board. So it kind of doesn't really matter.
Or
Like he'll
9 out
all
of 10 across the board
sure.
for your
You know
analogy.
what I mean though. Like he'll find a way in
Yes.
multiple different disciplines to get the job done and in a really smart applicable way. So obviously I don't see those two players, Misa and Crosby, as the same, but the style that's there is I can't think of another one of another player where I'm like it doesn't really matter what they do because they're really good at everything. And in an NHL level of that style, I don't really know another player like that.
So, Will,
Yo,
who's Matthew Schaefer's comp? Maybe you should put Misa at
uh,
1 if you think he's Crosby.
Matthew Schaefer. I don't know. He's almost like one of those guys where I'm like, he kind of is just himself. Um, I'm trying to like he's not Cale McCarr kind of thing. He's not a Quinn Hughes. He's not one of those. But like like
I'm just being. I'm just
Eric
being.
Carlson, like he has so much just offensive zip, and
Well, now I hate him because you said he's Eric Carlson.
I'm thinking of like the style of play with a Matthew Schaefer where it's like he'll lean offensive, he'll go to the net, he plays those like offensive things and does that stuff, and he loves to play with the puck, he loves to move the puck. It's such a shame that he's been so hurt this season because I only have a couple of games under my belt data wise for him, but he was just so off the charts good in those games and so like I don't even know how to explain it, but spectacular hockey player. And let's see, but yeah, I don't know. Really good. Do you have a list of NHL affiliated prospects? If not, can you ease the pain of existence by talking about Ivan Demidov or Michael Hage? I do not. I do not. I don't really like to think of things like that way. But what I can tell you is that Ivan Demidov is one of my favorite players not in the NHL. There's that. It's hard not to love him. He's is an amazing player with so much potential.
I guess the way you could do an affiliated, the only way you could do it, Will, is basically you'd have to put all your, because you have like your prospect pyramids. We
I
did
do.
those in the summer. You have what? It's franchise, and then there's like core tier.
Yep.
That's the top end. So, and there's only a couple franchise guys, and most of them
Yeah. It's like,
are playing in the NHL now.
yeah. It's Celebrini.
Who's now in the NHL? Michkov, right?
Yeah. Celebrini, Michkov, and Demidov. I think are the only ones.
So Demidov would be your number one,
Probably.
because
Yeah.
I don't remember
Not
anybody
in the
else
NHL.
getting that tag.
Yeah.
So there is that, but like,
Yeah. So good. Oh my god.
he
I'm
is
just looking now. He's so good.
he is ridiculous.
He's so good.
There's a reason 2 years before he got drafted, my nickname for him was the Demigod.
Yep.
And now I'm a sad boy because he's on the Habs.
But yeah, I mean, Michael Hage, I have listed as a core level guy, and he's had a great freshman year. Like his offensive game is undeniable.
And core is the
Like top
second
six.
second
Yeah,
tier of
yeah.
Will's pyramid.
Like the way I see it is a franchise guy is like, yeah, you're nuts if you trade him. Like if you get rid of this player, like they have the potential to be one of those guys where it's like if they are wearing a different jersey than the one that they have on now, you have done something wrong. You're probably losing that interaction, right? A core level guy, it's like you don't really want to move these guys, right? Like that super high end player who every single game, every single night, you're going to get one of your most important guys out of him. Probably don't want to trade him. And then from there, it's like depth or just regular old everyday NHLers. And then from there, it's just everyone else kind of like guys who might make it, maybe depth guys down, like way down your lineup or everyone else.
You
So
forgot the
I try to
maybes
keep it simple.
category.
That's kind of what I mean, though. Like way down the lineup, they might make it. Not totally sure.
Yeah.
The depth category is pretty big, though. It's like most everyday NHLers who can play and just do stuff, you know? Anyway, but no, I don't have a list because those things drive me nuts. If Martone maxes out, I see him more as a wing version of Jason Spezza as opposed to Corey Perry and Makachuk. Do you see any validity in that comp? I do, a little bit. I see where you're coming from because I think Martone has that Corey Perry potential where it's like he does have that I'm a jerk kind of like get under your skin type thing to him, but he's not Matt Kachuk. I've seen him enough this year where I can kind of comfortably go, I don't think that's him. And no disrespect to Porter Martone. I just think that he is not that wrecking ball style antagonist, hyper skilled, high intensity guy. I think he is a little bit more of that finesse uh playmaker style player who does have, I think, a little bit of that Corey Perry vibe to him. But I think I maybe come down in the middle of like Spezza Perry kind of vibe. Like I see where you're coming from. And yeah, I mean I something in that realm I think is reasonable.
He's got an old school feel to him a little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Yeah, a little bit. He's got vibes. Oh boy. Do you think Bruno Idzan gets drafted? Well, I know he's doing quite well coming over from Sweden. If you don't know, Bruno Idzan is a Croatian kid, a Croatian '06 undrafted last year. Oh my god, he's ripping it in the USHL this year. Holy smokes. I did not realize that he
Time to
has
track a game.
27 points in 18 games. I've seen so much Bruno Idzan. Like I had him ranked for a while last year, and he wasn't producing enough. And when I watched him play, he just wasn't getting into scoring areas and wasn't generating enough offense. And he's a little small, and slender, but holy smokes, that's a good season. Like he went to the Alps Hockey League this year and played back in Croatia and scored over a goal a game. And now he's in the USHL and scoring a point and a half a game. So I'll have to go take a look because that's pretty wild. I am a fan of Bruno Idzan. I liked him 2 years ago when he was a -1, and I saw him with HV71. So yeah, I mean, hey, if he's starting to figure something out, that's a good one. So I'll take a look. I still don't think he gets drafted from what I have seen him in the USHL here and there, and I don't think he gets drafted, but I'll take a look because I like him. I'm primed to like him, I guess is what I'm saying. Saw a little bit of Tyler Hopkins recently. His puck handling under pressure stood out. Tell me more about him, please. I mean, yeah, Tyler Hopkins, honestly have not seen him in a very long time. So I'll just jot him down because I don't want to forget that he got brought up. But for me, I always felt like Hopkins was that one of those guys who kind of plays like a third line NHL center, but in the OHL, which is always a bit of a problematic thing for me. Like I think that he is definitely like a smarter, guy. Like you said, the skill under pressure from what I remember, like he gets closed in on pretty quick because he's not the fastest, most evasive guy in the world, but he does manage to keep possession okay. But I don't know enough to give you a detailed answer. So I've jotted him down and we'll get to him at some point. Give us your 2025 draft overage or hot takes. Go to the National League statistics page. I saw a tweet today that said something along the lines of Leon Mugley looks like a steal for the Washington Capitals. Go to the National League Elite Prospects page, filter for aged under 19 players, and sort by points per game. Number one is not Leon Mugley. Number one is Ludwig Johnson, my boy, a teammate of Leon Mugley, who went undrafted last year. I love Ludwig Johnson, and I thought he was really good at the World Juniors. But that isn't really a hot take. I mean, I have Thomas Galvis in my top 50 still. I mean, I don't know about if I have any real hot takes. Here's one. I watched another Caleb Desnoyers game. I got another game of data on him. He was good. It was a good game. I still think that Julius Sumpf, and after having seen him with the German national team, I think Julius Sumpf does a lot of the heavy lifting for Caleb Desnoyers and allows him to sort of be who he is. Julius Sumpf is 20 almost. I don't know if I would draft him, but he's on my watch list because I watch him and I go, that's a heavy forechecking guy with some speed and size, and he is better than I thought he was. And at the World Juniors, I thought he was probably the most impressive player on the German team. So big fan, and that's, I guess, a bit of a hot take. Thank you very much for the super chat. You left a question in the GMs of Instagram. Well, let me go look because you just paid us money. So that's much appreciated. I'm gonna go look.
Thank you, sir.
Oh God, the first thing I see when I open my Instagram is the plane crash that was at Pearson Airport yesterday. That's awesome. Love to see that when you open your phone. This is great. Okay, what do we got
10 minutes
here?
from my door.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, true. 10 minutes. What did you do? Why did you do that?
What?
Unreal.
Nobody's gonna find.
It's your fault.
Nobody's gonna find my. Oh, you meant like it's my fault that the.
Yeah, it's your fault. It happened in your backyard. So what'd you do wrong? You
Nothing.
didn't de-ice your yard enough.
I've been
Sorry,
shoveling
you shouldn't be making
too much.
jokes about it. Oh my God, so much shoveling. For anyone who doesn't know, down here, I don't know about you, but I think we got about 8 inches of snow, maybe.
Been a lot.
Something like that. A lot. Anyway, question from Mitch with his 15 Australian dollars, which will definitely be very well spent on our end. First, I love these questions, by the way, if you're still watching. The first question, what are your thoughts on Jeremiah Mundi? He looks interesting, and I'd like to see the Canucks take a swing on him late like they did with Basil Sansonens. I'll answer that. And I honestly, like, Jeremiah Mundi is a guy who I've kind of liked watching for the Swiss team. He might, by the end of the season, be a watch list dude for me. Like, not a, I would draft you, but I do like the skill level he's got combined with his size. He's got a wicked shot as well. Like, that's the other thing. He scores a lot of goals. And it's largely because he can just grip it and rip it. And I like that about him. I feel like the projection on his game is a little bit tricky. For me, if you're a Swiss player, like, he doesn't, on the Swiss national team, like, doesn't really look like that commanding the ice type, I'm the center focus of this team type player. And for Switzerland, I think in the NHL draft context, you kind of need to be at that sort of higher end on that team. And I think he's a good player. Like, I feel like he could be a more important player in 2 years, say, for that program. But I have seen him here and there, and I like what I see. And it would not surprise me, honestly. Like, Sansonens last year, I liked him. I could see a team drafting him. Again, I didn't see a ton of upside there, but you stash him in Switzerland for a while and see what happens. With Mundi, if that happens again and a team takes a swing on a guy like that, I could see it, and I wouldn't be totally against it. Leading on that front, could you see a team like the Canucks building a Swiss connections of sorts? They've drafted interesting players like Sansonens and Pius Suter, and he's become an underrated piece in their system. I mean, it would be nice. I do think that Swiss hockey, obviously it's kind of a joke for you, especially AJ, that I love Swiss hockey so much, of the Swiss league. But
Swiss league is so good.
But I do think that the Swiss program, while not on par with like the biggest ones out there, I do think there are some good young guys coming through there, and Slovakia. Those are two countries I think that
can't forget about Poland.
Yeah, Poland is trying. They've got
according to my data, Poland is the most undervalued European league.
Sorry,
No, it's just
data
funny.
speaks for itself.
Just funny.
They were at the World Champions last year. They were at the World Championships. You know,
Look,
they're poking
you're
around.
allowed.
You know, they're they're poking. But anyway, no,
you're allowed to say things, but I'm also allowed to poke
I
fun.
am. Oh,
Yes.
I'm allowed. Thank
No,
you.
no, I'm about to mute you because I actually
Oh,
have the
okay.
power to do that.
Got it. You do. Yeah,
I
that's true.
do. I do.
Um,
But
but yeah. So
I am a nice ruler of this domain.
yeah, you're a benevolent dictator. Not unlike your EU4 persona.
Hey, I'm playing a Republic right now.
For now.
No, I actually like the Republic government form playing as Venice. It's just I just make so much money, and my monarch my monarch point generation is so good. But anyways, get back to this because people don't care about
let's
me.
get back to this. But yes, thank you very much for the super chat. I hope that helps. And yes, I'm always watching Swiss junior hockey. I actually just saw their junior team not too long ago play the States, the NTDP. They did not get that blown out. It was lopsided, but they got some interesting ones. The other one too that I kind of like, by the way,
lopsided.
yeah, it was exactly. It was competitively lopsided. But the other guy that I kind of like is a defenseman for Cloten. Mike Cuesta Flores, I think his name is. Mike Cuesta Flores is a guy who's caught my eye here and there, but yeah, fun times for those guys. A report about Oliver Kapanen said that he's an NHL caliber center in the defensive zone, but would be better as a winger offensively. Do you agree, or are there any successful players in that ilk? I mean, I would think that Oliver Kapanen as a bottom six center is exactly what he should be. I mean, I feel like he has the smarts that if you wanted him to score more, you could put him on the wing. But I think that kind of takes him away from what he's good at. Like, I've always really had a lot of respect for Oliver Kapanen and like what he is, and he's grown a ton since he was drafted. I think
He is the inverse of his cousin.
Yes, he is the inverse of his cousin Kasperi. You know, not the fastest or most skilled guy in the world, but super smart and just creative and gets the job done super simply, but in a good way. So for me, like, I wouldn't overthink it. I just go, yep, if this guy could be a center down my lineup that I can depend on, like, those are valuable. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Who are the prospects with the most high end talent that the Flyers could target with 2 late first round picks? I would say if Colin Potter is available, that's a good one. And it depends on what you mean by high end talent, right? Like, I think that Ben Kindle is a big swing to take. Cameron Schmidt, if he's the third guy you draft and it's like 31st overall, and you're drafting Cameron Schmidt after your Philadelphia and get I don't know, whoever else, a Jackson Smith at the top end of the draft, I think you're doing okay. And you could take the bet on him. And if he's the third guy you pick and he doesn't quite hit the ceiling that's there, I think he'll be there. I think it's entirely possible that there's a team that is a very good NHL team this year that has a first round pick and they will have a chance at taking Cameron Schmidt. And that might be a really high end swing you could take. So maybe Ben Kindle, though. Cullen Potter would be the first one I'd go after, though, if he's there. I mean, I'm really obsessed with Michael Sverchek, but I don't think you draft him that high because you could probably get him later.
Where
but
does
we'll
my bromance factor into this equation?
I feel like he'll be gone by the late first round. I mean, obviously, if he's there, then sure. Like, I've got him pretty high. I really like him. He's on that list too, but I feel like, I mean, it depends on late first round, but I'm thinking like 2 playoff contenders. You know, you're looking at like 26 and 30 or something, and I feel like he'll be gone by then. But if he's there, yeah, he's on that list for sure.
Fair enough.
What do you think is the upside on Luca Cagnoni? He's been putting up nice numbers in the AHL. He's been extremely good in the AHL points wise.
Do we have to do
yeah, I think he's on the list.
Okay.
We should do that. I think we should do that.
Okay. Next week then.
Next week
good?
then. Yeah, Luca Cagnoni. Okay. Got that. But yeah, I mean, I think he has all the potential in the world to be a top 4 offensive defenseman. He was in my first round when he was in the draft. I thought he was a bit of a long shot in terms of being an everyday 200-foot NHL impact guy with no real issues defensively. I think that that's kind of where his issues are. But I think with him, the skill and the offense outweigh the costs with him. So Yeah, I think he's going to be a guy where teams go, maybe we should have drafted this guy in the second round instead of letting him go to the, I think it was the fourth round, something like that.
Some dumb.
Um, yep, yep. That draft did have a lot of guys that I had in my late first round where I'm like, they've turned out decently well.
Hey, Will.
Luca Pinelli and
Fix your mic.
what? Oh, Cagnoni.
There
Is
you
that better?
go.
There we go. Yeah, these. Don't buy your microphone cables from Monoprice if you're curious. Anyway. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I like Cagnoni. He's been very good, and yeah, we'll take a look at him in the near future. I can see Michael Misa being the best forward on a cup champion. I don't see McKenna as being the best forward on a cup champion. I see where you're coming with that. I think you're right. I think it's kind of like, would you rather have Patrick Kane or Sidney Crosby? You know, it's like you probably want Crosby, but that doesn't mean that Patrick Kane is not good, right? Like it's like kind of that you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. But Patrick Kane has won some Stanley Cups, right? Like pure skill, pure offense, high octane skill, fun factor out the wazoo. I could see that with a guy with McKenna, but just a damn good hockey player, like forever. I could see that with Misa for sure. Someone says Uyghur should have been there over Pareko. Probably true.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrini or Michael Misa? Oh, honestly, it's very quickly becoming Misa, but it's not an easy discussion. If I had to pick between the two,
Wow, that's high praise.
well, I just remember watching Celebrini last year. I think Celebrini, they're kind of similar.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrini, I think, is more creative. Like I think Celebrini has like some more high-end individual plays. And Misa is a little bit more of a go-getter. Like he's more of a aggressive forechecker. Celebrini's more of a smarter tactical guy. So don't make me choose, I guess is what I'm saying. If you get one, be happy you have one.
Choose.
You know what?
Choose.
By the thinnest of margins, I probably go Celebrini, but Misa is breathing down his neck and then some. Bum 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 bum. What do you think Easton Cowan's ceiling is? Like a third line, 200-foot creative guy. Like if he's a give and go pass guy who forechecks pretty well, I could see him being perfectly dependable in the NHL game in, game out. Competitive, you know, tactical, smart, but you know, we'll see how the physicality of the NHL is for him. After seeing him a whole bunch over the last few years.
Is middle six maybe a better way to put it than third liner for like ceiling? Because we're talking, person's asking about ceiling.
Yeah, I guess ceiling second round, but like you watch how like a Calle Yarncroke plays for Toronto, and it's like that's the kind of when he plays, right? When he plays, like you watch Calle Yarncroke, and a lot of the time you're like, that was a smart play, that was a good play, that was a good, you know, smart, good. I have no issues with this player. Everything he's doing almost is like, yep, that's a good idea, smart thing, done pretty well. I see a lot of that in Easton Cowan, where it's just like, yep, creative, smart enough, definitely ahead of the curve relative to his competition right now. Good player.
Good player.
Cyberpunk is a fantastic story without action. If you hate shooting via hacking melee, it's completely viable. Yeah, that's true, but I don't have the brain capacity to handle a trifecta of video games that suck the life right out of me.
And then I'll try and get you into EU4 and we can play campaigns together.
I play EU4, just not. I haven't done it in a long time. But
do you want to run a campaign?
No.
No, I'd help you. No, that's not.
I know. No,
EU4,
it's not that I need your help.
No. It's not like that. EU4 campaigns. When I play it with my buddies, we work together to achieve our goals separate, like our separate goals.
Right.
I don't go to war with people in EU4. In EU4, we're friends. That's
well, war in EU4 is not always the best way to go, I find. Not sometimes it is, but it can screw you sometimes if you play around too much.
Oh, I go to war a lot in EU4.
Oh, so all right.
With the AI. I mean that. Right. Like, well, I wouldn't I'm very open when I want to destroy you in games. Okay, like EU4, I don't have the competitive itch to like destroy people at. That's not. It's not a game to do that. The
Mhm.
competitive itch is, can we destroy the Ottomans quickly? That is always the itch because the Ottomans are so good in that game.
Right.
See, we are slowly
Um,
becoming a gaming channel.
yeah, one show at a time. We're getting there. Anyway, someone else. Okay, let's go next. Love Lacombe just needs to shore up large blunders every other game. Great number 3. Yep, I agree. I think he could run a power play, second pair guy, perfectly fine NHL defenseman. Which is good. I know it won't happen, but I wish this competition's obvious success and impact on best hockey would make the owners reconsider the stupid decisions the league has made. I mean, you can't do anything about what's in the past, but they're going to the Olympics next year. They got the World Cup on 2028 already going. Like, if that's the pattern that starts, then good. And that's a big step in the right direction, and that should be celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of Nikita Artemonov? I love him. One of the
Don't we
first
have a
video game
video room?
episodes we
Yeah.
ever did. Yeah, it was Nikita Artemonov. He's super smart in so many good ways. I think he knows how to play his style of play in a really good way. Like he doesn't try to overstep what he's doing and capable of, but he's taken a step offensively this year. I like him. I have all the time in the world for Nikita Artemonov for sure.
And so does Sam
Uh,
McGilligan.
so does Sam McGillicuddy. Yes, he does. Hi. Not sure really what to do with Anton Frundell. Feels like all his points are coming off of him finding space and shooting and not much work off the rusher with his skill. Where do you think he projects? So, yeah, I mean, Mikhail Holm loves him. He's been talking to me once in a while about how much he loves Anton Frundell, and he sees him all the time, considering he is a Your Gardens guy. Your Gordon. Um, for me, like I actually just saw Frondell today, largely because Mikhail has been talking about him, and I've seen Frondell. I've got 5 games of data on him by now. He's one of the few guys I've done that much on. He's probably one of the first reports we do in the next little while. But Frondell, like, I think I see where you're coming from. I have him at 13 right now, but if you wanted him at like 9, I would understand, right? Like, I think that for me, the group I have of Kindle, Lakovich, Coots, Schmidt, and Frondell, they all bring very different things to the game. And I think of all 5 of those guys, Frondell's the one that is by far, the easiest to see being a thing in the NHL of some kind, right? Like, just say this guy's going to be in the NHL and I will put my money on it. I probably would put that money on Frondell because he is so strong and physical in a good way. He's calm under pressure. Like he doesn't really give up the puck a whole lot along the boards, which is very important in the NHL. Um, he does get his scoring chances here and there. I will say the data for him is not very good. Like the data that I've tracked on him is not very good, and that's pretty much in every game. But that's not necessarily like a knock because I don't. It's just a guide for me. Because for me with Frondell, I see him as like I think with him on the wing at the pro league level, it's been very interesting seeing him there because he does get a lot more time along the boards. He gets a lot more give and go time. He's not the guy, and I think that that's unlocked a lot of potential for him to be a little bit more liberated off the puck and just sort of a really good supplementary player. Like I'd really like Frondell on my team. I think he can have a bit more of a physical edge too. He's missed a lot of development time as well, but he has been back for a long enough time now. Like he's played 23 games, like almost as many games as a James Hagens, for example. And so he has a pretty big sample out there. He's played internationally a whole bunch. So, he's got games under his belt. And I think he has gotten better since he came back. Um, Certainly better since he played after the summer being injured. But yeah, I mean, I like him. And I feel like if he came up in discussions like at 8 or 9 and you really, really wanted him, I feel like he might not even make it there. But if he does, I have no problem doing it. And I think you can get a pretty dependable, useful NHL player out of him.
So, there's
What?
something I heard in there that's not about Frendell.
Hmm.
But you've moved Cam Schmidt up quite considerably then.
He is in the same spot he was when I put my rankings out in December. But I did have him lower earlier. I did. And that is because I tracked a couple of games where he was not very good. But then I tracked a couple more games and he was sick. Like this guy, like for me, I want him to be a thing like so bad. He's so much fun and he's quick, and the combination of speed and skill and finishing ability is so good. But man, I feel like there's a bit of a ways to go in a few different areas. But if the last game I saw of him is any indication, I can't wait to do another one and see if he can keep it up, because that last game I did, he was amazing. Um and got a ton of really good chances, and even set up some good chances for his line mates. Like as a dynamic offensive zone focused winger who can score and set up a play as well. Yeah, I mean, I moved him down quite a bit, but then like I watched a bit more of him and I went, you know what? The ceilings on a lot of these players that I have pretty high are not amazing. And this guy, I mean, you can't argue with a kid who can score points like he does. Like it's hard to ignore. And he's got
In
that
the way
pesky
he
side.
does, yes.
Yeah, yeah. He's got that pesky side to him. Yeah,
You
yeah.
can
Good
argue
player.
with players who score that many points.
Yes, you can. Yeah, some of them. But and I think you do have an argument against, like if a team was like, I don't want Cameron Schmidt at 12, let's take Anton Frundell instead if he's there. I'm going, okay, I understand. You know, if Schmidt turns out to be really great and scores a bunch and Frundell doesn't,
You
don't
know
forget
what
I
all
had
the
him
hockey,
higher.
hockey YouTube channels are gonna do.
Yes.
The the 80 players drafted before Cameron Schmidt.
Yes. Well, that's yeah, like Cameron Schmidt, I can pretty confidently say is likely to be like a guy that goes 36th or something to a team that's bad, and they just go, okay, I mean, we'll take a chance on this guy too. And he turns out to be like a pretty darn good NHL player, and everyone goes, why would you not take him at like 22 or 23 or 20? Like, why would you not do that? And it's like, it's easy to say in retrospect, uh, but
Why
anyway,
wasn't
I
Lane
I really
Hudson the
like him.
first overall pick in
Exactly. Like who?
2022?
Yeah. Like why didn't Lane Hudson why wasn't he a top 5 pick? Blah blah blah. It's like, all right, let's calm down. I
Because
think
you
I had him. I think I had him higher than almost everybody except Sam, and even I was like, I don't know. Like there's some question marks here, but he's turned out
will
great.
also
I
had
don't know.
Seamus Casey above Lane Hudson.
I did, but I still love Seamus Casey. If Seamus Casey were in Montreal, like here's the thing: if Arizona didn't make that trade for all those picks to get Connor Geeky, and they had the opportunity to get Seamus Casey and Lane Hudson, and they both were, is Arizona still a team if Lane Hudson and
No,
Logan Cooley and Seamus Casey are all Arizona Coyotes?
no,
Probably not.
they're
Probably
not.
not. No, but no, I know. No, that was a
Utah
bigger
is
problem than
better
who was on the
for
team.
it. That is what
I mean,
happens.
yeah, the ownership in Utah is what matters. Like, it's just better. They have a place to play that
Oh
isn't
no, no.
5,000 feet.
I mean in the sense that Utah is better for having like Arizona is just helping Utah get better. That's really what I'm thinking. Like from back
Oh,
then, that's more what I'm
right,
saying.
right,
I wish they had that ownership, but only in Arizona.
right. Yeah. Um. Oh, I miss hockey in Arizona. It's sad. I mean, I guess I could go to ASU. That's fun. I saw a game of ASU
It's
last
not
year.
the
It was a good time.
same.
Not the same though. Yeah, it's not the same. It's a
But
shame.
we'll see what the
Yeah, we'll see.
what the logo and name ends up being. I bet you it's
We'll
just
see.
gonna be the hockey club, and they're gonna have a Yeti logo because to me that
Oh,
makes
I
the most
agree.
sense.
Yeah, I think that would make the most sense for them. It's the best one. I think so. Anyway, I mean, you can always call them the Yeti, like casually, whatever. What do you
Yes.
think of Axel Sandin Pellikka? He frickin' stinks. No, I really like Axel Sandin Pellikka. Like, really good offensive defenseman. Super crafty. I
We've
mean, I
got
thought
a video room on
we do have a
him
video room on
where
him
Will
from a
breaks
while
down
ago.
his shifts, and people accuse Will
Yep.
of picking his worst game of the season, but
Yep.
What I will say is Will is lower on him than I think most people are, but
Yeah, yeah.
still likes him.
But I do. I still really like him.
Oh,
I
hey,
thought
money!
him with Tom Villander at the World Juniors, those two playing together. Oh my God, that was disgusting.
Thank
Uh,
you, Lebowski.
Thank you very much. Yeah, for the super chat there. I love it because I love Misa slightly over Celebrini because it's the craziest high praise of Misa, but I love it because it's reasonable. Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. I again like I'm not saying that a Michael Misa is a Sidney Crosby, but in terms of like what he brings to the game, and when you watch him, like like you could watch Sidney Crosby and go, man, I wish he were more like Tom Wilson. It's like, sure, you can
No,
say that,
I've
but
never
you're
said
wrong.
that
You're
once. I've never even thought that once in my
no,
life.
but I'm saying people like if you want to look at Sidney Crosby and
But
you go,
nobody does. Nobody even
no, no, no,
does
no, no,
that.
no. Hang on. I'm going to tie
Fine,
it back to us.
fine.
Like when we had Stephen Ellis on the show, right? He talked about Michael Misa, and I asked him about his off-puck game. And Stephen Ellis went into like physicality and how intense he is along the boards and all of these things. And I'm going, well, okay, but like you could look at Sidney Crosby and very easily go, I would really like him to do a little bit more of like this physical thing or be a little bit more of a tough guy, like do that kind of thing because that's what you do in this sport. But then you kind of go, no, like that's not his game. Like it doesn't matter. Like that side of the game almost doesn't matter. So for Misa, it's like everything else just is overwhelming. Like it's like you're kind of splitting hairs a little bit with that. So anyway, I really love him. Uh I mean, and again, I came into this season primed to be a little bit lower on him because of what I saw last year and down the stretch of the season last year. And I mean, he blew me away in game 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and yeah. I mean, he's not perfect, but really amazing hockey player.
And again, just a great mind for the game.
Yeah, super smart.
Watch the game tape. That guy breaks down plays and talks about how every little thing influences decision.
Yeah. Someone says sell a team on Mason Mo, and no, because I don't really know that much about Mo. So I'm gonna hold off on that, but I will go check him out because you're not the first person to bring him up. The other Mason that I am interested in too is Mason West. That's another guy that I kind of want to check out soon. But high school tape is a little bit hard to come by for me at the moment. Which would you rather have, a late first round pick in 2025 or a mid second in 2026? Probably the late first in 2025 because I know what I've got. I'm not going to lie. I don't know enough about 2026 to know if the guys that are going to be there at 50 are going to be worth it as opposed to who I would rather have at like 25 this year. And I think there are some good players available this year in the top. Like I'm getting more and more excited about this group the more I see them and the more this season has gone on. Like, and the more I've kind of cast a wide net and sort of thought outside the box a little bit, there are guys I'm excited about, right? Like Kindle and Coots and Schmidt's really exciting and Colin Potter's really exciting. Like Michael Sverchek, I love, and I feel like him in the SHL. Like if you have the means going to watch him in the SHL, you'll see a heck of a player there too. Eric Nilsson, Justin Carbonneau even is really exciting. Like there's a lot of really exciting players this year who, I mean, it drops off pretty quick, but you might be able to snag someone pretty good in the late first round for sure, who can really excite you.
So I think we're gonna
There's
have
room.
to pick up our pace a little bit, Will.
Do we?
Just
Okay.
because we're about 15 minutes out from when we normally try and close. But
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get there.
yeah.
These don't seem that bad. Okay. There's rumors Caden Lindstrom is getting offers from major college hockey teams. Do you think you should go to college or stay in the CHL? I'd probably go to college. He's big and physical and intense and physically dominant. I feel like at 19, 20 years old, it's not, I would just go to college. It's tougher. It's a more physical level of competition, and playing fewer games, I think, is also a bit of a positive thing, right? Especially for a guy coming back from injury. Like if he needs a little bit of time to keep getting back into it and training, I don't know. I probably, for a guy like him, I probably would think about college. Most NHL prospects, I would also say, drafted really, really high that are CHL guys and have the opportunity to go to college. I probably would advise them that that's also an option too. And plus, 1 or 2 years of a U.S. college diploma, and then maybe the NHL is a thing that you do for a while. It's a nice thing to go back to, and continue when you're older. But anyway,
Or while you're
one of
winning a
the
Norris Trophy like
or
Adam
that,
Fox
yeah, like that, yeah.
from
One
Harvard, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Harvard. One of the forwards I remember Guelph playing on defense last week due to injuries was Max Nemesnikov. They did that. Wow, that's
Your
hilarious.
face says it all.
I mean, I love Max Nemesnikov, but he's 5'6" and like a zippy boy. So putting him on defense, respect the creativity. I
It's
love
time
that
to create their
because,
own Lane Hudson.
yeah, exactly. And you know what? Hey, I will never fault someone for thinking outside the box and trying something. I will never ever fault that, whether it works or not. That's one of the things, like, I feel like that's what the world needs more of is, as long as it's legal, think outside the box, try something, and if it works, great.
As long as it's legal, think outside the
Yes.
box.
There's a lot of thinking outside the box going on right now that is probably not legal, but we don't need to talk about that. Would you trade a 2025 first round pick in the 8 to 11 range for a guy like Jared McCann? Probably. I don't know. I love Jared
Yeah.
McCann. Yeah, like you're hoping you may get, like, Jared McCann's the leading scorer on the Seattle Kraken or something, or he was
Or
for a
if you're
long
the
time.
Leafs, you trade a 7th-round pick for Jared
Ooh.
McCann and
Protect Justin Hall.
well, they actually had to, unfortunately, because he had the no movement clause.
No, I don't think he did.
Yeah, he did.
Did he?
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
whatever.
He signed like a $2 million deal for a no movement clause for like a bunch of years. So they had to do the 3D protection. So they hedged their bets with McCann and Kerfoot, and really it's like, oh, we only lost a 7th-round pick. Yes, that was Jared McCann.
Yeah. Okay. What are your thoughts on Ilya Nabokov? Oh, the goalie. I don't know, because goalies are not my thing really that much.
And
I mean, every time
there's been a lack of David Phillips in this.
David
comment.
Phillips kind of disappeared off the planet, but I think he's coming back soon. But I mean, whenever I watched Nabokov last year, I kind of was like so on him. I didn't think he was like incredible, but I also don't know anything about goaltending, so forgive me. But what I do know is that Colorado is expecting, I think, to get him after this year. His contract expires, and I think the expectation is he's going to come right over and may even play in the NHL, but I'm not totally sure.
Oh, my nonna made me the best.
Yeah, I was going to say the best polenta. I love polenta.
Cherish that.
Yeah.
Cherish your nonna. Mine died a year ago, so cherish her while she's around.
Yeah, careful with the DNA test. Let's just say my father's side of the family is not who I'm related to. Yeah, fair enough.
This is like the Maury show. You are not the father.
Yeah, I know. You do have to be careful with those things, though. How much do you think development actually changes the end outcome of a player? Is it largely how quickly the player develops or achieves their peak? So, yeah, that's a very interesting concept. I think my answer is, like, for a period of time, if you're an elite young athlete, development does, like, everybody develops. Every young athlete, if they're serious and they work hard, they're all going to get better at things. They're going to get better at skating, shooting, passing, all those things. They're going to get ideally coached well, to like see the game better, move quicker, play the game quicker, keep up with higher pace of play. Like, that's the ultimate challenge, really. And so I think for a while, when you're looking at draft players and players as they're developing and come closer and closer to the NHL, the style of play, in my experience, doesn't really change. Like, doing all these video room episodes, I'm watching all these guys and I'm like, yep, I remember that from when they were draft eligible. Yep, I remember that from when they were draft eligible. Yep, I remember that. But like, on the fly, what you're kind of doing, and that's kind of why the Machar one is a really interesting example, where you're watching him and I'm like, that is the player I remember. But in this context, in the AHL, things are very different now. And here's how it looks. So where do you go from here? Right? Like, the where do you go from here is the more interesting part to me. So and I always think about things like, if I'm a coach, right? Can I find, and I talk about this in the Machar thing, can I find a job for this player, and what is it that they're going to do that I can trust them to do? And if you don't know the answer to that, that can so-called stagnate development, right? Like you might look at that and go, like look at the Winnipeg Jets, right? Like you might look at them and Brad Lambert and go, they're stymieing his development. He is stagnating. Things are problematic. But what is he going to do day in, day out for the Winnipeg Jets if you put him on the roster? Like, I don't think you can look at the Winnipeg Jets and go, there is a hole here that Brad Lambert can fill, and I know he will day in, day out, and we will remain a contender. Like, I just don't think that that's really there right now, at least not just yet. So
But
is
they're
that bad
playing Vlad
development?
Nemestikov
I know, but he's
2C.
pretty good.
Yeah,
Like, they're still winning a
but
bunch of games.
Brad Lambert. Actually, he's in the lineup.
He is, but like not. You know what I mean? You know what I'm
He's
saying?
on. He's on the
right?
fourth line wing at the
Right.
moment.
That
but,
and
like,
that's not where he should be.
he should
Like,
be. He should be playing second line with Nick Ehlers
No,
and
yeah.
Cole Perfetti. That sounds gross.
Yes, that's what. And when he does play in a big role in the NHL, I personally think he fits. But I'm not an NHL head coach, and so. But I will say, as a second part of the answer, I think the real interesting developments happen after guys finish that development period. Like when they hit 23-ish and they go, oh crap, like the team that drafted me 45th overall, I didn't make it. Like they cut me loose. And now I have to figure out a way, like, do I want to keep doing this? Or do I just sort of go, I gave it a go. I'll go to Germany or I'll go to the AHL or whatever. Like, then I think you see players going, okay, between 23 and 26, that's when I go to like Vegas and become a bottom line player because I can do X, right? Like, then you see guys kind of adapting and changing their style a little bit so that a coach, can they listen to a coach and fill a role that a coach needs them to do? And if they can and they're really good at it, then you might see things move in a different direction, right? It happens. I think that happens way more often than a guy who's 18 and overcomes all these hurdles in the way and all of a sudden becomes this like elite level player. I just don't see that happen nearly as often. The Four Nations face-off made me appreciate a guy like Reinbacher instead of small and flashy Lane Hudson. Well, I mean, Reinbacher hasn't played, so we'll see
I
about
would
that.
be curious what you mean by that, because if it's like,
Yeah.
if you're trying to say you appreciate a guy like Travis Sanheim because he's big, he's mobile, and he just rocks, then I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
But I'd like to know the context behind that, because Travis Sanheim, criminally underappreciated.
He is very good. Yeah. Do you think Jakob Dobesh has potential to stick around in the NHL? I mean, there's not a ton of goaltending in the pipeline for Montreal. So, well, they have Jacob Fowler.
They have,
But
and they took like 20 goalies.
Yeah, they've taken a ton of goalies. I mean, I don't know. If he's good, he's good. And my thing in the NHL with goaltending is like if you have a goalie who's stopping pucks, don't overthink it. Just see how long you can ride that goalie for, and
Just don't overpay him on a contract, because
yeah, exactly.
with
Yeah,
goaltending, you just kind of play it year by year.
Yep. Who has the best vibes? Who is smiling the most or whatever? I don't know. Like, who's
Okay,
locked in
Ilya
the most?
Samsonov.
Yeah, exactly.
Have lethal bit smile.
Yeah, lethal smiles. Who was your favorite hockey player guy growing up? A grinder type or unheralded type of player? I always loved guys with crazy names when I was a kid. That was my weakness, like Alexei Ponikarovsky, Ralph Infranuevo.
Alexei Ponikarovsky, Nick Andropov, cool name.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other ones.
I like Jason Blake as a kid. I know he wasn't like the
Oh
best
my god,
player, but
Jason Blake. Oh boy.
But did you not like Jason Blake?
Jason Blake was because he came to Toronto when I was 17, I think, or 16. And he was one of my first experiences where I watched him and I went, oh, so you can score 40 goals in the NHL and like not be amazing. Okay, got it. Like, okay. Like he was fine, but I kind of sat there
Jason
and went,
Blake.
oh,
I don't know why.
yeah, I mean, he was fine. I mean, the bar was low at the time. But anyway, I mean, honestly, I was a big goalie guy when I was a kid. Like I was super into goalies and the gear
Artur
and the
Zerbe,
vibe.
that's who you
Yeah,
like.
Artur Zerbe was my boy. I was a bit, surprisingly enough, I was a big, actually, no, I wasn't really at the time, But I will take a twist on the question. And retrospectively, a player that I have grown to adore is Mike Modano. Um, so like that's a type of player that I also love. But yeah, I was super into weird names and random guys and goalies for some reason. That was my thing when I was a kid. Probably some kind of
When I was a kid, I was
ADHD thing.
stupid. I did not understand the game at all. Fraser,
I mean,
I liked Fraser McLaren because he just went
oh
out there and
yeah,
fought.
oof.
Fraser McLaren, Colton Orr, those are the guys I remember from my childhood.
Yep.
And
What do you think?
they
Oh
sucked.
boy, they were terrible. I remember where I was when I found out that Colton Orr got signed to a multi-year contract by the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I went, "Oh no!" First, it was like for $2.5 million a season or something. Maybe not as much. A million? It was a lot of money at the
Or
time
Ty
for
Domi's
Colton
number
Orr,
two.
and
Never
I just
asked him
wanted to
about it.
like, oh boy. Anyway, what do you think Ryan Leonard's impact will be on Washington's playoff run? I mean, he'll be a compliment, a physical compliment. He's gonna bash the woke out of some guys.
Bash the
Um,
woke.
but he's a physical guy. You know,
He's a
he
bulldog.
goes,
That's kind
he
of
can shoot. Like he'll bring some kind of dimension there that I think Washington will love to have. Tom Wilson, here's Ryan Leonard. Hang out for a while, you know, pass on some knowledge. Obviously not complaining the two, but there is a bit of that psycho energy with Ryan Leonard a little bit. How about Steve Eisenman for Misa? That's another very good one. I'm a lot more familiar. I'm not as familiar with Eisenman because he was already kind of on the older side when I was a kid. But I mean, the similar vibe, definitely. I think that's right up the alley as well.
okay. We really got to get
Yeah.
moving, Will.
Okay. As a Silvertips fan, is Carter Bear another Peter Mueller in the NHL or can be an elite player? I think he could be very good, like a really good physical competitive guy. I honestly don't remember enough of Peter Mueller to be honest, and I think he was an Arizona guy when Arizona didn't develop anybody. So who knows what they could have been done somewhere else. Um,
Love Owen Zellweger, freedom from Cronin.
yes, agreed. What would you say is Cameron Schmidt's limiting skill aside from size? So yeah, we talked about him. I have him at 12 now. I would say that Schmidt, his thing is defensive. Like he's just not much of a factor defensively. He takes up so little space on the ice and he's physical, but like again, doesn't really win a whole lot of these battles and like give much of an impact defensively. But I kind of am getting to the point where I just don't really care that much. I think the positives outweigh the negatives there. Would you say Nazar is a good comparable to Cullen Potter? I don't think so. I think Potter's faster and got a bit more skill, like a bit of a higher pace guy, but Nazar is definitely a more energetic 200-foot impact guy. Slightly different. Thoughts on Max McHugh? I don't really have any. I don't know. I don't really have one. Is he the guy the Leafs drafted? I don't know. I feel Coots is a well-rounded forward, but I wonder what the separating skill would be in his bread and butter in the NHL. I do think he would be more of a third line energy guy up the middle of the ice. Like I think he quarterbacks rushes really well. He plays high pace, high energy style. You know, he's not shy. He's just a little small for that role, but I think the speed and the physicality in his game overcomes it. But I do think there is a chance that he might have a bit of trouble getting there. Last question. How would you rate Boumedienne in the move category? Probably like a 2B. Like everything's good and it's usually good. Um, I have him penciled in right now, actually, as a. Oh, I don't actually have him penciled in as anything right now. So I'll get to that. But I probably would put him in like a 2B. Like I don't think he's a 1, but I don't think he's like bad in any discipline in that area, really, honestly. Demidov needs to improve his defensive zone exits and soft passes in his zone. Bad decision making. Probably. I mean,
Will
I guess I don't know.
disagrees.
I don't know. Like maybe, but I don't know.
Still a
It's a
god.
very small part of the game. Like pretty small. Anyway, Patrick Kane had Jonathan Taves and Hossa. Yeah, exactly. Like he, you know, like I don't think McKenna is going to carry a team to the NHL Stanley Cup. What do you think Connor Zeri's ceiling is? I honestly was surprised he was in the NHL as fast as he was. I think he's a good complementary scoring forward with a bit of skill. You know, I always thought he was kind of like a lot slower than he needed to be for the NHL, but he apparently made it. I just saw the Oilers are apparently taking Matt Savoy on their road trip out of the break. Do you think it's too early for him to be up? I have not seen much of Matt Savoy this year, mostly out of spite for our graphic designer. So maybe I'll change that. I think he's decent.
I love Matt Savoy. As much as
I mean, I love Matthew Savoy. Yeah, I do too.
much as it pains me to say that for Rayan, I loved Matt Savoy in 2022.
Yep.
He was my boy, but now he's Rayan's boy, so I hate him. Nah, but
yeah.
I don't think it's too early. Why not take him on the road trip and see?
Yeah, see what he does. I mean, what's the harm? You know, they're a good team. Give him a go. Why not? See what he can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? He might be the next Buffalo Sabre alumni to go off and have a great career somewhere else.
And win a Stanley Cup.
And win a Stanley Cup. Oh God. Could you imagine?
Yes, I
Matthew
could.
Savoy. Edmonton Oilers get John Gibson, win the Stanley Cup, and Matthew Savoy hoisting the cup.
Why John Gibson? For time.
Because he's sick, and the only problem with the Oilers apparently is goaltending. So
no, they have bad defense too.
False.
John Klingberg and Darnell Nurse play on that team, and I think they might even play together.
John Klingberg's knees are going to explode in a week, so he probably won't be playing on the team anyway.
Yeah, he'll still be playing. They'll
find a way.
He'll have exploded knees, and he'll play in the playoffs.
Yeah, Zach Hyman in the playoff style. Zach Hyman with a busted knee.
Yeah, they're a pair. They're a pair. Darnell Nurse and John Klingberg play together.
Well, then you get it all out of your system quick, and everyone else can mop up. And there you go.
They're not winning. They're not winning.
They're gonna win. They're gonna win the Stanley Cup.
No, they're not.
Connor McDavid is gonna will them to the Stanley Cup final. It's gonna happen. No, they're not,
bro. Darnell Nurse, John Klingberg is the second pair. Brett Kulak, Ty Emberson is the third.
They'll find a way.
They're not finding a way.
Bring in Radko Gudas. Get
Jonathan Gibson help.
And Radko Gudas.
That won't help.
They'll punch their way to the Stanley Cup final. Anyway, enough of that.
Punch, actually.
Yeah, exactly. They'll punch a ticket. They'll punch a hole in the ticket.
They'll just kill everybody in front of them, and then they'll have to be awarded the cup.
They don't ask how. You know? Anyway. Lindstrom might go to Ohio State. I saw the same thing. That would be fun. Do any of the non-hyped Sharks defensemen make the NHL? Colton Roberts, Nate Miskey, Axel Landin, and Leo Celine Valenius. I think the best out of all those guys is either Miskey or Celine Valenius, and I probably lean Valenius. And I think he could make it, but I'm not holding my breath. I never was a huge fan of him, but maybe. I can't say it's impossible. Thoughts on Anton Frondel's performances recently? So we kind of talked about Frondel earlier. I think he's perfectly fine. I think he's a good, safe pick who can play physical. He uses his body really well to protect the puck and plays a really projectable game. I think his games on the wing have been really interesting as opposed to playing center and up the ice, and I think it could be an interesting project to play around with. As a Flyers fan, I'm hoping for the rest of the season to be a quest for a top 3 pick, a top line center. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think that would be a benefit for the Flyers is adding one of those, and you'll get a choice
and Jetlichenko as the 1-2 punch.
Yeah, even James Hagens in Philadelphia would be kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's options. You got options.
No, it'll be Roger McLean because big.
I watched Sidney Crosby tape and think, gosh, I wish he played like Stu Grimson. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Shout out Glenn Metropolit. That's another good one. I love that. I love that guy too. Those guys where it's like I would love to play the game with like 90s hockey players from before AJ was born of, is this an electrician or an NHL player? Is this a plumber? Is this is this a store manager at Best Buy or a hockey player?
No, it's funny.
Glenn
so they did like, is this a player? Is this a player's, like a chess player's last name or IKEA furniture? They did it with Magnus Carlsen.
That's good.
He got most of them right. But I think he got a couple wrong. Okay.
Anyway, you get the point. Steve Thomas. I mean, you probably know who Steve Thomas is, but is he a plumber or an NHL player? Okay. I mean, I think, okay. So the thing about Hudson is the physicality. Okay. But
no, I understand it.
Yeah, I understand it, but it's easy to say and sound right. But
here's where I feel about it. I think you don't need to put down Lane Hudson in order to appreciate other players, the other stylistic. I just think Travis Sanheim's awesome. But I don't think about Lane Hudson when I think about I like
No.
Travis Sanheim. Or
Yeah, no, not
if
the
I
same
like
at all.
like I like David Reinbacher, but I don't think about how much more I like Lane Hudson when I think about that, right? Like you gain different appreciations for different skills that guys bring. It's why I think I like Michael Misa a lot, because I understand how his brain works, and it's just awesome. He's just so goddamn smart. So goddamn smart. So it's about appreciating things differently, and not, you don't have to, I think you can appreciate things without saying it's better than this or as opposed to this. So, what's Shane Wright's ceiling? That's the last question. I think like at his ceiling, he could be a point per game guy, but that's ceiling. Absolute
ceiling,
tops.
But like a good 200-foot second, third line center.
I think
Like
I think
watched Shane Wright.
70.2C is like kind of the where I feel Shane Wright.
Ceiling. Yeah, that I think is fair.
Ceiling, ceiling's like point per game, first line, low end first line, but I think like a realistic estimate, 70, 75 point guy, 2C.
I'm so happy that he's having the season he's having. Like I watched him last year with Seattle, and I went, if you write this guy off, you're counting chickens before they hatch. He's looking pretty good.
Yeah.
And he's looked pretty good this year. Like obviously not super productive as much as you might hope, but I watch him and I go, yeah, this guy's an NHL player. I'm playing this guy on. If he were ever available for less than probably he should be, I will take him and give him a go. Really fun. Antoine Vermette for Shane Wright. Exactly.
And player comp for Matt Schaefer. Will already went over this. He doesn't like have a real good one. He's kind of his own thing. I don't really have
a good one. Yeah, but the puck carrying, the offensive lean, the push to get to the net, and all that stuff. I mean, like an Erik Karlsson comes to mind, but I'm not gonna say he's Erik Karlsson. But I'm just trying to think of NHL defensemen that are kind of like him, and I can't really think of one. Because I think Matthew Schaefer might be one of those guys who kind of has his own brand in a way. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, that's going to be it for tonight. Thanks again for joining us.
Yep.
All our sponsors are in the description. We're brought to you by Fanatics and Puck Preps, and obviously a Scouching.ca subscription helps us out a ton. You can check us out on that site and get access to our really cool Discord server, as well as plenty of other cool stuff like data tables, drafted and undrafted prospects. We got video rooms coming tomorrow and Friday on Jet Luchenko and Philip Meshar in that order. And next week, I imagine we're going to do Luca Cagnoni and maybe a Matthew Savoy finally. I don't know.
Doubt it. No.
Doubt it. Scott Niedermayer. There's one. That's an interesting idea from Matthew Schaefer. Scott Niedermayer is kind of there, maybe. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us. This was a ton of fun. We will see you Thursday afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Did we confirm Scott Wheeler or no?
Yes, Scott Wheeler will be on the show as far as we know. Yeah. So we're going to talk Scott Wheeler's most recent rankings, and we're going to talk Four Nations, I imagine, with him. We're going to preview that game, I imagine, that night, and we're going to have a good time. Yeah.
Alrighty. Take it easy.
Well, thanks very much. We'll see you Thursday.
And go Leafs go.